Hi, I'm Mike Morales. You're watching Sipping Off the Cuff on Tequila Aficionado Media. All of our platforms. I'm here in San Antonio, and that gentleman over there is
Rick Levy in San Diego.
And Rick and I have been just traversing through the highlands with Terralta. Ah, look at that. You know, I got that too. That's just a website. That's all.
Yeah. It's the graphic on the website printed out on a card.
Yeah. I mean, it's about as informative as it can be, but we've gotten a lot of inside information from Felipe, and you with Felipe and me with the importer Creo Spirits, who's been really, thank you to Creo Spirits for making this happen. I'm really happy about getting the whole entire line. Just when you think that this Camarena can't come up with any more stuff, he does, you know, and we've been pleasantly surprised with the entire line. We've gone.
This is a really exciting line.
Yeah, it is. You know, I have to say, more than halfway through this line, I'm a big fan. I know, you know, his Artenome version was really subtle. You and I have had Pasote. You, myself, and Alex have all tried Pasote. Kind of leans toward the funky side of tequila.
And that was if I understand that correctly, that was a special profile he put together for 3 Badge, and that Pasote is their brand.
Hey, that, you know, again, he had to come up with 3 different lines and 3 different flavor profiles, and in several expressions of each line. You know,
frankly, I think he could keep going. He could keep going. I think he could do
this
still.
Did you ever see the movie Multiplicity with Michael Keaton? This is where he learns to clone himself, and every time, because he doesn't have enough time to do everything, right? He can't be the dad and be the entrepreneur and be the husband, and so he finds a way to clone himself. But every time he clones himself, the clone gets a little dingier and gets a little weirder. It gets a little, and so finally, the last clone isn't even a shadow of what the real person is, and that's what I'm afraid of. I'm afraid he's going to turn into Multiplicity, and so the final clone is just this happy guy who doesn't communicate.
It's just a photocopy of a photocopy.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, how far can he go? But
well, you know, he is really into the science of this. He's got a couple of engineering degrees, and, you know, his family history, they've been doing this for generations. So, you know, when I talk to him, he just really seems to know his stuff about the process. He could go on and on.
I guess it's a tequila geek's heaven, and this is definitely an aficionado's tequila. We've discovered, you know, Creo Spirits wanted us to make sure we let you all know this flavor profile. This line is really made for the catador, for the connoisseur, for the, you know, not necessarily the oak head, but certainly somebody who had an appreciation for agave and what is possible with tequila. Yeah. What's still possible with tequila these days. So.
Yeah, Felipe's focus is always on the representation of the agave, however he wants to represent that. So he's more about the agave than the barrels. And what he's producing here is just a beautiful expression of, you know, the highest of the Highlands agaves.
This is the Añejo I'm pouring, ladies and gentlemen. I went ahead and poured a little extra Añejo. Don't know why. But I have been enjoying the expressions in the Glencairn Copita. So I'm gonna continue that little tradition of mine right now, because it seems that with every expression of this line, the Copita just brought out some beautiful notes, and I'm discovering that it doesn't. This tequila is so good, it didn't matter if I drank it out of your shoe. You know, I'm gonna wind up with some beautiful notes one way or the other. So tonight I'm using
that's really big. And I'm using my my standard Glencairn whiskey glass.
Oh, wow. Now, how long is this aged, Rick?
I believe Korea Spirits told us it's aged for 1 year.
Okay, and they also told us. I asked them, how are these virgin barrels? Are these new barrels? The only thing he could say was they're very, very old barrels.
And that's what we heard from 3 Badge on Pasote as well.
Right. They said there was a number that was thrown out, in the article. I can cite the article if y'all need me to cite it. But for those of you who subscribe to trade magazines, they said something like 30 or 40-year barrels, 30-year-old barrels, 40-year-old barrels. He's using,
completely depleted barrels.
Yeah, the last step for that barrel is to wind up at your supermarket as a planter. That's the last step. They leave Felipe's El Pandillo and they go straight to Safeway.
I don't think it could even be used as a planter because by that time it's probably leaking and it would have to just be a display case or something.
Oh my God! Can you imagine what the floor of his warehouse looks like? Oh, that's a leaky one. Get it out of here.
Can I just set up a bed behind the barrels and just lay there and get a contact high from the
you know what? I bet Felipe is repurposing the juice he's losing. He's stealing from the Angels. He's the only guy. You're telling me that he uses his roof gathers rainwater, correct?
Yeah.
I mean, he's using rainwater and well water with his lines. This one is strictly his well water version.
Yeah.
And I bet he's fine. He's repurposing the heat and the steam.
He captures the radiant heat from his stills and sends it to warming tanks for the stuff that's going into the still.
Who does that? Who does that? I bet. So I'm telling you right now, I bet he steals the Angel share, repurposes it. That's what he's doing. He's figured out a way to steal from the Angels. If anyone can do it, he can. Oh, my gosh.
Oh, well, if it does smell like there could be a little bit of heaven in it.
This is beautiful. Now, this is a little bit more amplified version of the Reposado.
And this is typically more in the realm of what we would expect from a Reposado. Because usually producers, when they're creating their Reposado, they are, really they're making that barrel, they're letting that barrel announce itself. And in Felipe's Reposado, it was just a very light touch of the barrel, and now here in the Añejo is where we really start to notice the barrel.
So in Felipe's case, again, he's bucking the system. You and I have seen the trend where brands are making a statement with the Reposados. Particularly this year, in 2017, we've seen a lot of that. In Felipe's case, he's making his statement with the Añejo. And wow, what a lovely nose. But see, I'm still getting the agave. I'm still getting that. The layer at the top, the wood layer that I got initially in the Reposado is still there, but it's just a little bit more amplified.
Mm-hmm. And are you losing anything from the agave layer? It's still huge. I'm still getting the pepper and the citrus and that, starchy fresh apple that I like.
It doesn't, it's not giving me the mezcal notes that I got in the Reposado. I mentioned it, when I tasted the mezcal, I had it in the prototype that we're testing from Chisholm Trail, and it was very, very, very reminiscent for me of a mezcal, of a Reposado mezcal that had been rested maybe 3 months, and I've never had that happen to me before with a tequila. This one, I'm getting more wood notes, but I'm not losing any of that agave.
You know, this Añejo is more agave forward than a lot of reposados.
Yeah, you know, just when you think that this guy cannot surprise you anymore, look at the legs and tears on that thing. My lighting's not the greatest, but everything is beautifully clinging to the glass in a natural way. We know that Felipe does not rectify any of his tequilas. There are no additives, no coloring. I mean, if we're to believe his barrel management, he's looking for the most ancient barrel in the world and using that to age his tequilas, because he's all about his agave.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's a purist.
This is really lovely. The wood notes have now settled in. This is more, like you said, Rick. This is more of what you expect from reposados these days.
Yeah.
And maybe we should call this a true añejo at this point. I mean, him being a purist and all, maybe this is what an añejo should have always tasted like. It shouldn't lean toward the Jack Daniels and Jim Beam, you know, flavor profile. It should still carry that agave punch.
Yeah, you know, I wonder if there's ever going to be a real true target for that, because, you know, you well know from the history of tequila that, you know, the barreled expressions were a fluke of the first export, right?
Well, the other thing, the stories that I have heard, it was that Herradura invented reposado. They started resting tequila and Jack Daniel's barrels because they knew at some point they were missing the whiskey drinker, and so they wanted to bring them into the fold, and so they purposely started resting in whiskey barrels, so to get more whiskey notes, and that was actually the matriarch's idea in Herradura before they sold to Brown Forman. So you know, it was done on purpose. And
so what's with that story about the person, was it in New Mexico, wanted tequila shipped up, and they're like, well, we don't have anything to put it in, and so he said, well, I'll send down some barrels and you can put it in that?
Well, what I know for sure, here's what I know for sure. 3.5 barrels of Vino Mezcal were delivered from Tequila to just north of Santa Fe, and it's a town, San Juan Pueblo, and there's 3.5 barrels. So yeah, they were used to transport. After that, I don't know anything about the rest of the story. What I know is that they were exported into the United States, well, into New Mexico territory 39 years before New Mexico became a state. So that's what I know about, and it was the Sousa family, by the way. That's what I know about that. But to purposely rest tequila in barrels for exportation to attract a specific drinker, that was Herradura. That was their idea. You know, the barrels at that time were just a mode of transport, not necessarily a purposeful mode of aging. So that, I guess that's where we draw the line. So I know one half of the story, and I've heard the other half of the story from somebody who was actually there, and that it was the matriarch's idea to do that, and everybody thought she was nuts until they started attracting the drinker, and eventually they attracted Brown Forman and the rest of history. You know, I'm still getting fruit notes. I'm getting everything that I got originally in the Blanco. Yeah. And I think it's almost as if the whatever tannins this barrel has left, it's what's bringing, not the alcohol, it's what's bringing up the agave notes. It's really odd. It's almost like the agent you know, we say that the alcohol is part of the flavor profile, but there's minimal alcohol, and it's almost as if the barrel notes, the tannins, or whatever's left in there, is what's bringing you the agave notes. That's how
I'm not getting much of a tannin effect. I am noticing that for me, the barrel notes are skewing a bit more towards the bitter end. You know, like like when we're talking about French oak and we talk about, you know, the dark chocolate and
well, yeah, I'm getting more caramel, some honey, stuff we're kind of used to having, like you said, in a reposado these days.
Yeah, I'm not finding the you know, usually with an añejo done in, you know, used bourbon and whiskey barrels, I would expect it to be a bit more caramely and you know, a bit more vanilla, a bit sweeter than what I'm actually getting here.
Yeah, they're much more subtle, much more on the subtle.
And it's great. And, you know, I don't mean that as, you know, as a detraction at all. It's just describing the profile for our viewers.
Wow. Oh my God. You know, would you say, Rick, that oak heads would be disappointed, those severe traditional oak heads that lean toward the whiskey and the bourbon?
Yeah, you know, if that's what they're looking for, and they're looking for that in this line, then I don't know that I would direct them to this añejo. Maybe we'll find that when we do the XA. But, you know, for me, the barrel notes are still, it's still done with a light touch.
Yeah, and really that's the bottom line. That although I would say the color, it's much more appropriate, I think, for añejos and even some reposados. But it's still really a light touch on your blanco, you know, because you're still getting blanco notes, and in these days it's practically unheard of. You know, you don't see that a whole lot. One more time, Rick, I can't stress this enough, man. Brand of Promise nominee in the añejo category for instant legacy. What a beautiful expression of a tequila. Period. Just it almost, you know, if you just sit with this tequila, it kind of takes you back, and it makes you wonder if maybe that's how they used to be. You know, in the old.
This is not an añejo that's saying, I want to grab those bourbon drinkers and make them happy. You know, this proudly says, I am a tequila.
Yeah, there you go. Absolutely. I totally agree. That is our take on the Terralta Añejo, 1 year Añejo. If you stay with us, you will be enjoying our extra Añejos coming up. And there's a couple of surprises with Añejo, extra Añejo #1. And extra Añejo
a special
2.
guest.
Our special guests.
The Añejo at Old Town, where you can order it and have it shipped to you. It's currently running $57 for the Añejo.
Again, worth every penny. As we mentioned before, if you're looking for a heavier oaked version of a tequila, this may not be the one you want. But for those of you who are adventuresome and are looking to really, you know, see what a tequila can be like, and still carry those agave notes forward, as opposed to masking them, instead of you know, using the barrel for what it is, adding an extra layer of complexity, this is your tequila right here, right there. I'm Mike Morales here in San Antonio. That young man over there is
Rick Levy in San Diego.
You've been watching Sipping Off the Cuff on Tequila Aficionado Media, all of our platforms. If you're watching us on YouTube, please subscribe. If you're listening to us on Blog Talk Radio or iTunes, go ahead and subscribe. You won't miss anything. You will be a very happy camper. And as we like to say here, Tequila Aficionado at HQ, tomar sabiamente.
Sip wisely.